Hello and a warm welcome to this special podcast premiere and a unique opportunity to have so much passion and knowledge about audio combined in one room. I'm glad to welcome Sabina Lipska, Video and Audio Director at René Axel Springer Poland.
Hello, great to be here. Thank you.
Christoph Bühler, Head of Audio at René Axel Springer Schweiz.
Hello.
And Max Franke, Managing Director, Axel Springer Audio in Germany.
Hello, great to be here.
My name is Daniel Fanslau. I'm a host and producer for Blick podcast in Switzerland. And the four of us, we just spent 2 days together in Warsaw, Poland at the first ever René Audio Lab. And we would like to share some of our insights and important takeaway from the conference. Christoph, starting with you, when you go back home to Switzerland, how do you explain your colleagues what you did here in Warsaw the past 2 days? Why did you stay away from regular work?
I would prefer to say what happens in Warsaw stays in Warsaw, but I'm afraid that's not going to work. Honestly, I would tell them that that it's usually about the old and new. Meet old and new colleagues, get old and new concepts and ideas and insights, see what's right, therefore old and still here, and learn what could be, so therefore new, and getting ideas for staying the course or changing the course and changing lives if possible. And last but not least, Polish hospitality is famous, and it's true. It's
Thank you.
Great. It's great to be here.
That goes over to you, Sabina. We are guests here at René Axel Springer Poland. We are recording in the ONET studios. What's your impression after spending 2 days with audio nerds from all over the markets in Europe, from René and René Axel Springer Schweiz?
It was great to meet you guys all here. First of all, after this, crazy pandemic time, it's really nice to, as Christoph said, to meet the old guys and friends, and also acquire new acquaintances and colleagues and inspirations and experiences and share them. Mm-hmm. For me, it was about reassurance. I was so happy to listen to the pitches and the presentation of all of you, and to see, that what you are doing, we're also doing. You have the same challenges, but we can, in the way, share the solutions to the challenges, and that was fantastic. But also the directions that we took for our strategy seems to be aligned with all the findings that you have. So that was great.
We will talk about these findings, about the solutions, about the future of audio. Max said during the Audio Lab, when you recall it, was there any special moment that made you smile or maybe think a lot?
I mean, what Sabina said, that we share a lot of common challenges. We think very much alike. That was also reassuring to me. What really made me smile was that the colleagues in Poland, they have the podcast constitution. And that resonated a lot with me, because we have a similar concept, the podcast playbook. And again, it's an early market, and we all try to navigate there. And but at the end of the day, we have quite similar approaches, I believe.
We will talk about the podcast playbook and the podcast constitution. It's a very, very interesting concept just in a bit, Sabina. But first, you're here in Poland, very advanced in audio. You combine it also with video and like 360 degrees. Why is audio so important for you? Why did you decide to invest so much in all these beautiful studios that you have here and opportunities to record?
Yeah, at first it was actually just testing the waters. We wanted to check out what is it about this, audio trend that was poised for growth. Everybody was saying. So we wanted to try. We were pretty quiet with the trials and with the testing, and at first it was fun. But then we saw that it gets traction and it gets actually the people's attention. So it got a bit serious. Mm-hmm. And then we combined it with this idea of premium content. So the content the subscribers offer behind the paywall. And we thought it was a hint at the beginning that maybe this type of extension of our content offering will be something interesting and strengthening the premium offer. Mm-hmm. And only now, after roughly a year of introducing the offer to the premium package, we have the research and we know that actually it builds retention. It's a beautiful anti-churn tool for our subscribers. They won't actually stay with a subscription because they have this podcast offering. What is even more important, being to some extent, traditional media, we are internet digital media, but we are over 25 on the market. So you can call us traditional media. We want desperately, I would say, even get the attention of young people. And we found out that actually the young audience is into the podcast, but also into the buying and staying with the subscription because of the podcast.
So the driver for subscription, you can target a young audience, but you need successful podcasts for that. And Max, you developed a playbook for successful podcast do's and don'ts. So if somebody comes up with an idea, what they want to do, how do you react? What's the journey to a successful podcast?
Yeah, it always starts with an idea. And of course, this is great when somebody, for example, in the newsroom comes up, I have this idea for a new format. And at the beginning of the playbook journey, so to say, there is a one-pager. And that's just letting the person or all of us in our team, we are being forced to ask ourselves certain questions, like what is with this idea, what is the target group for that? What are their aspirations? What are their needs? How can we translate that into a value proposition of a podcast? So we want to develop this initial idea to a podcast concept, and then afterwards it goes through the whole life cycle of the podcast. So how you script it, what's the structure of it, and again formulating a launch strategy. And we have this saying of every podcast is like a startup, and that's how we would like to approach it. It's like, let's say, media terms, it's like launching a new magazine, and you think about your target market and also about your competition a bit, and how do you really want to stand out. And what we found that the playbook, which is still being further developed, so it's probably never ending, is that the playbook is a very helpful tool to guide us through that.
I would just maybe build on what Max has just said, that for us, the constitution or the playbook, I think we have to exchange. I mean, within the group, it's really very practical and useful tool. For us, the experience tells us also that it's to avoid chaos and in the end, the frustration of everybody involved in the process, journalists, but also production and audio team. So it really, for us, is streamlined the whole process.
So nowadays, it's not just about having any podcast, it's about having a successful podcast. And part of the success is also money, obviously. I mean, it's nice to have a nice product out there, but in the end, you have to earn money. And Christoph, that would be the question for you. Podcasts don't always have high reach. How can we still make money with it? How can we get sponsorship?
Well, it's an interesting question. After the podcast playbook, it's like the monetization playbook, and that's actually one thing that we are always quite focused on in Switzerland, because it's just, I think, part of our culture that we have to have a return on investment quickly, or even before we start anything. And having the small market size in Switzerland, it's really important that we just do not rely on reach monetization like probably the Polish and the German market could do, but we from the get-go have to maximize the reach on every level we can. So we usually go with really cross media marketing. We have to play every channel that we own, which means social, website, print even, and of course podcast as the core. So that gives us the possibility to reach, to have a reach that is monetizable and allows us to have a real return on investment. It's a hard business, but it's the only way for us to develop. And when we have conferences like this. Then usually when the colleagues from Poland or now the colleagues from Germany tell their stories, it's like we cry a little inside.
Why is that?
Because it's just wonderful to have a big market.
But you have nice CPMs.
We have nice CPMs, but we envy you for the market. It's like when I was 20 and I stopped, but when I was 20, I had a friend of mine, he went to New York. And I said, why do you go to New York for your startup? And he said, "You look, I have a solution for car dealerships, and in Zurich I have 100, and in New York I have 50,000."
Yeah.
See, that's no different from a German point of view, because we also look with envy at the English-speaking market
Yeah,
and
exactly.
think like,
Of course.
wow, that would be 10x of our market, and how easy, despite being very competitive market as well, how easy could it be to have a return on invest on your podcast just by the sheer size of the market? And now let's say 1.4 million Indians joined the club as well in podcasting. So that's
True.
probably leading too far right now, but that's also maybe an interesting question for publishers like us. Are there some opportunities for us in the English-speaking world, maybe?
You know, I get from those nice today's conference that we are just about to finish. Every here and now on the stage were the words, okay, so we don't have resources, we don't have money, we are really small. But so we had to get creative. And I love it because that's exactly what you said, Max. So you don't have maybe huge market. We don't have huge market in international language, but the creativity is definitely here. And we could also hear this and touch this event experience during those 2 days. So I think that's a huge advantage
And that
to have the right people.
We did not hear complaints. I did not complain, and nobody
just
complained.
cried.
It's just I just cried a little inside, but it's not a complaint. It's just it's a challenge, and and that's. It was inspirational. There were no complaints in those 2 days.
Yeah, but I really believe it's always these two sides. So a constraint can make it a bit harder for you, but it also can unlock new creative ways, right? And because then you're forced. So yesterday, when we were presenting on Germany, we showed that our team is very little compared to other German publishers in their audio initiatives, and still we formulated the objective to become market leader for private media companies in audio journalism. And then you need to focus. Then you really need to think about how you have the highest impact. So it does not necessarily make things easier, but it can also unlock new potential.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And it's not only the market that is a challenge outside, but also sometimes in-house. It's not always easy for everybody to understand, why do we have audio? Why I write an article, I'm a journalist, why do I have to care about audio? And Sabina, you mentioned that it's so important to have decision makers and editors-in-chief on board. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was actually the pivot that we did in 2022. It was like a tipping point for us. To actually get on board every editor-in-chief in the company, but also board and every possible department that we have in the company, including marketing, distribution, sales department, and all of them. Why was it important? Because it wasn't our fight, to win anymore. It was, the focus of the whole organization. It was a strategy of the whole organization. It was, you can see, I showed the numbers yesterday. It was like, 10, 20 times better numbers and results after we got everybody on board. So my one final finding would be, please convince everybody you can. Don't fight this battle on your own, because maybe you won't lose it, but it will take so much more time.
It's definitely something we can learn from you. Christoph, the conference is almost over after these 2 days. What's the most important takeaway for you?
I have lots of takeaways. Really, the one thing I always take with me from Poland is get more data. Then another one would be find audio moments. Then strategize. Something that I really think was really shining with you guys from Germany. Like really clear strategy, bold claim, be bold. Try something, go out there and perform, but don't do it just randomly, but have a plan, I would say. And then, of course, find those audio moments. Audio is here to stay, and it's going to be going to be greater than ever. We saw this today in a wonderful presentation from Lena from Schibsted. and she did some correlations I think were great just by the sheer size of the AirPod market or of the headset market.
Exactly. She
The
said something like
opportunities you see.
440 million AirPods sold since 2016. I think that was the number.
Yeah, it's a crazy number, and I didn't know, but it
drives the market.
So we're in the right spot, and there's nothing else than to be really bullish for this market, for the idea.
You mentioned audio moments. Could you just explain a little bit for people who are not familiar with that term, what that is and how we can target it?
Shall I? Would you like? I can start. Audio, during your daily life, there is so many moments where we can reach you with audio. When you do the dishes, when you stand in line, when you're in the public transport, when you're queuing in the car to get out of the office. These little moments where we can reach you and tell you something, tell a story where you've been unreachable so far, when you've just been bored. Those are the moments we want to find.
This is something that I find particularly exciting as a publisher. So with text and video, I mean, if you take the say available time budget for media consumption throughout the day, there's a lot of competition to get your attention with video, with text, where we are also competing with TV shows, etc. And then there are these audio moments, these interstitial moments, and these are for us so far untapped areas where we can break in, and this is, I think, for a publisher very exciting to really get people in these so far untapped situations.
I found it also very inspiring what you do here in Poland with the short casts, like podcasts of 10, 15 minutes maybe for these short audio moments.
Yeah.
So people don't always have to consume 30 minutes or even up to an hour. It's just like short audio moments. Could you just briefly explain what these short casts are?
Yeah, that was actually the idea that we got from this research. I think it was originally done by New York Times to find those moments, short moments throughout the day of the users or listeners or readers. So we tried to somehow compose our structure of our podcast not into an hour as we usually did, or tens of minutes, but really short pieces like 10 minutes, sometimes 6 minutes. So the name was actually because we thought, okay, is it really a podcast? When you think about podcast, it's something, of substance, and also on length. So we came up with the name. But actually, when I was listening to Max yesterday, you had those aha moments, which is also a very short podcast. So I think the idea is there. The naming is maybe different, but we are all exploring different, kinds of forms of digital audio, and maybe that's the right name. Maybe not podcast anymore, because there's so many different, forms of and formats. We also experiment with radio. I know that colleagues from Germany also do that. So maybe the digital audio would be the proper name.
Audio is so much more than podcast in the end. Max, when you go back home, what will you start implementing with your teams or with your colleagues? Something to take away from the Audio Lab?
So one of the biggest takeaways or biggest inspirations for me was from both Poland and Switzerland, how you really think about your content as an ecosystem. So in Germany so far, we approach it like, okay, here is this piece of content, this podcast, and where can we create touch points on various channels? And that's amazing, but really being more individual regarding the platform, the medium that you use. We are sitting here in the amazing studios of O-Net, which is an amazing infrastructure to produce content. And then they have this one show, and it's really like a 360-degree approach of how you can play with that content, and to see that and really see what you're doing with that. It's incredible. It's very, very inspiring, and I'd love to take some of that home with me. Yes.
And I would just add to that, because this is also the tool. It used to be, and it still is a tool for us to convince the journalists, the newsrooms, the marketing and the sales department look, it's not just one piece of content. It's like ecosystem of, different experience for our users. And it really pays off with the result.
To think beyond audio in the end.
Yeah.
Christoph, when I asked you how should I introduce you here at this podcast, you said, I care for audio at René Axel Springer Schweiz. So you carry that excitement for audio. But how, when you go back home, how do you share that excitement with other colleagues that are not yet so excited about audio yet?
Oh, that's hard. That's really hard. No, 50% of my job is taking care of stakeholders. I mean, this is even before audio. Stakeholders are very important. I have first and foremost to convince my boss that there is money to be made with it, and I think there is money to be made with it. For the rest of the approach, I would stick with Sabina's. They get the decision makers on board and do a bottom up and top down approach, and just tell them about what audio is going to be. It's like the colleague of Max, Christoph, told me yesterday at dinner that he comes from the TV world. He used to buy series for German channels, and he said like a lot of the series they do now in podcasting are like in storytelling, very similar to series like Netflix series, like A Band of Brothers or other examples we took. And I think once we bring that across, that there's so much more than just a news podcast. Storytelling wise, you can just go crazy, and you can also do, of course, the news podcasts. They're also very, very good. Or Sabina's politics podcast with the huge relevance in Poland, and it's relatively easy to do. And it's for us, it's for the journalists as well, for the decision makers. The time the people spend with your content is ultimately, I think, that what counts. What you want to see as a journalist, you want the people to spend time with you. And I think that must be the approach to kind of convince everybody that this is the future, part of the future.
Totally agree with that. I mean, you have all the quantitative figures, growing market, etc. And yes, also long consumption times, and that's all amazing. But if you really think about the content, the storytelling, I mean, at the end of the day, as you said, we can call it podcast, we can call it audio, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is a medium that has tremendous opportunity to tell beautiful stories, and that's again in my experience, where journalists get excited as well. So they have new opportunities to tell their stories, and I think that's, for me personally, that's why I love this medium the most, because it's just such a great way to tell stories.
Exactly. And when you think, for me, it's always mind-blowing almost when I look at the data and the time the users or listeners spend listening to the podcast. In our case, it's over an hour and it's really focused attention. It's not like they say they're multitasking, but they also say, if I lose some thought, I have to pause and go back because I really want to hear it. It's not like, with the radio that you hear something but not necessarily pay attention to it. So podcasts are different. And when you compare this attention and the time that the user or listeners are spending with us, it's completely crazy because, for all the media to catch a minute or even seconds of attention of our readers and users, I would say it's a norm already. And suddenly you have this, 40, 30, an hour of attention. So that's great.
One exciting time. There's still a lot of potential to create great podcasts and successful business cases. As you said, Christoph, the future of audio, it just started. We can sum it up like this. Thank you all for sharing your insights, and Sabina for hosting us here.
Thank you so much. It was pleasure and honor. So, and I hope we do meet. Maybe not every month, but at least once a year to share further.
Hope to see you and hear you again. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.